Before we begin, I'd like to thank everyone for posting your questions, which makes this video possible. Okay, let's get started. What block did your parents live on in East New York? My mother lived on Herkimer Street, and my father lived on Hull Street. And they both would tell me stories about how East New York was back then. They said it was a place where you could keep the doors to your house open, as well as your car, and nobody would touch anything. How did AJ from Hicksville become associated to you? Was he someone you was incarcerated with? No. AJ, as far as I know, has never been in prison, nor do I think he will ever go do time. I met him through Louis Jet while we were at Rare 650 in Syosset, Long Island, where AJ ran the bouncer service. His uncle was owed money, and I wind up collecting it and putting AJ and his uncle on record with me as my associates. Do some wise guys still have drivers like they did back in the day? Yes, some guys did have a person that would drive them around, but the majority of the guys drove themselves. The families are run like a business. Does that mean that the family itself has assets that belong to the family and not the individual members? And if so, how does that work? To start with, it depends on the family. Any money kicked up to the administration is naturally divided up. Whether or not they put together a fund is up to that particular family. Some funds, for example, are like a legal war chest, money that's put aside for lawyers, or funds set aside for members who are in prison so that they're able to go to commissary. As far as individual members getting a piece of that pie, you could forget it. Can someone whose heritage is from the north of Italy become a member, or is it exclusively open to Southern Italians and Sicilians? It doesn't matter where your family's from in Italy or Sicily, as long as both your mother and father are of Italian descent. And that's how it was during my time. Back in the day, the Lucchese family was huge in the garbage industry. Do they still have sway in that industry today, or when you were in the family? As mentioned, years ago, during Tony Duck's era, the Lucchese family was heavily into the cotton industry, specifically the Avelinos. During my time, and presently, I'm sure there's cotton companies that are either owned or on record with the family. During your time in the life, have you ever heard of anyone in the administration or close to the administration or members who've shown remorse or regret in regard to murders of members who were falsely accused? First of all, what people don't understand is murder or murders is not a subject nonchalantly spoken about. And even if a guy felt bad about a particular murder, he's not going to voice his opinion. And lastly, for those who haven't received the memo, the mob never admits to being wrong, even when they're 100% wrong. Would you speak to the procedure of a proposal to membership and the passing the name around? If somebody objects, do they have to state the reason? Can a person defend the objection, or is it over? Is the note passed around to everyone in the family, or capos only? As I've mentioned in the past, a person's proposed by a member or a captain or the administration themselves. Actually, if a member wants to put a guy up, he'll go to his captain. And it's not called a note, but a list gets passed around the family and is typically given to the captains. And then the captains can show the names to his crew. That list is also supposed to be given to the other families as well. If there's an objection, a reason usually goes hand in hand with that. The proposed member will definitely get questioned about any accusations against him. He personally can't defend himself. That's up to whoever's putting him up. And depending on the reason, there may be a sit down over it. If a member's shelved and the administration decides to reinstate him, does he have to go through the induction ceremony again? He does not. Usually he'll be called in and told he's being taken off the shelf. And if he's returning to the same crew or reporting to a new captain. Here's a question from an email regarding a person on the shelf. Can a person on a shelf go speak to his captain or someone in the family if he wanted to? He can X, and if the person wants to speak with him, that's on them. This person also wanted to know, does the rule about not putting your hands on a member apply to a guy on the shelf? I would have to say no, because I know of someone who was attacked while he was on the shelf, which would have never happened had he not been in that position. Here's another email question. If a member gets disrespected by an associate of someone else, can he assault that person, or does he need permission? Good question. As per protocol, he should go speak to whoever the guy's with, or to put it another way, respecting the dog for his master. Me personally, I never did. You act first and speak later. Because more often than not, whoever the guy's with is going to try to prevent you from hurting the guy, which makes him look bad, which is why you get yours in first. Here's another email question. Your Captain Big John, if he's seen you speaking to someone, could or would he question you about it? Not all the time, but Big John was both nosy and insecure. So there were times that he would say, what was that about? Or what did that guy want? But not all the time. Here's a crazy question that I believe answers itself. If a cop shoots a made man in self-defense, would the mob go after the cop? What do you think? Going after a cop, whether assaulting or killing one, would only bring tremendous heat down on a family. If it's a personal thing, let's say the cop's off duty, and you have an altercation with him, that's on you how to proceed. This person wants to know if people who become members of the mob are treacherous to begin with, or is it learned behavior? Treachery is the nature of some people. It's just who they are. But the mob has always practiced this behavior, so in most cases, it's monkey see, monkey do. How far has the FBI come with technology and surveillance? And being the mob has done away with most violence, are they now racketeers? I like that question. The FBI has always had unlimited resources, and technology for them, like anything else, is always advancing. For instance, like the use of drones, which not only can take surveillance pictures, but also could pick up audio. I would say that presently, there are more racketeers than gangsters in the street. The last thing the mob wants to do is bring law enforcement pressure and heat on them. And that's exactly what violence would bring. You'll notice that in present times, guys have longer runs without getting indicted. And this is due to keeping the violence to a minimum. How is street money handled after a member or an associate dies? Is the money collected on behalf of their wife and children? Or does the Lucchese family inherit the business or loans? The Lucchese family, and the entire mob for this matter, doesn't care about a guy's wife or kids. They only care about putting money in their pocket. Look at what they did after killing Bill Cutolo. They immediately went rummaging through the guy's house, looking to glom his loan shark book and any money he had stashed. Nice guys. The other day, someone wanted to know what it means when guys don't want to recognize a member of their life, which is basically them not respecting his button and not wanting to do any business with him or even sit down with him for that matter. One person wants to know how I could say Bill Cutolo did nothing wrong when he went against Carmine Persico, who was the boss of the family. Okay, for starters, Persico was another boss who was doing life in prison and didn't want to step down. Before I finish, let me remind everyone to hit the like icon and to be mindful of the super thanks icon found in the 3-dot dropdown beneath the video for anyone who'd like to show appreciation for videos like this. Back to what I was saying. This is not the first time where families split into factions. You have a group of people who stand behind a particular person and another group who does the same. Bill Cutolo, like a lot of guys, supported Vicarina. Keep in mind, this is a family with a long history of internal wars. And I'll give another example of a guy who also sided with Vicarina, Joey Amato, who the Persico faction reinstated his captain's position following the war. I'm sure they weren't happy with guys on the other side who supported Arena and in essence went against Carmine Persico, but it's also understood and accepted. So this is what I meant when I said Bill Cutolo did nothing wrong. Think about it. They made him the acting underboss of the family. Would they do that if they believed he violated? Granted. Yes, they originally stripped him of his captain's position, but the wounds were still fresh then, and Persico was punishing the Arena faction. But he eventually came to his senses and recognized that Cutolo was an asset. The war was over, and it was time to rebuild the family. And for the last question, what was the most challenging aspect of that life? Many things were, but I believe it was staying on your toes while navigating through all the treachery. And I know some people will say that's all he talks about. Well, that's because that's all there was. And that's a fact. Treachery was alive and kicking all the time. Most guys had ulterior motives behind everything they did. So that was a big challenge. And similar to playing chess, you not only had to be concerned or aware of your own moves, but become a defensive player and figure out everybody else's moves. In that life, if you weren't a forward thinker, you became prey and they would eat you up. It's why I laugh at the haters who've never spent an hour in the street, who like to say that I always talk about making the right moves or always came out on top in situations. Here's my answer. If I wasn't 10 steps ahead of everyone else, I'd be dead right now. So I'll end this by wishing all the haters who are really fans in disguise a good day. And for all you intelligent people, I hope you enjoy your day as well. I'll sign off alive and well.